Another State of the Franchise episode, and we got a lot to discuss today, Jason. There's all kinds of stuff going down. Brock Purdy updates, oh baby, and also a ton of cap casualties, 49ers making signings, all kinds of stuff to get into. And you already know what we're going to do. We're going to get into it right after this. Let's go. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. My guy, we're about a week removed from the NFL Combine. A whole bunch of stuff was going on there, but just how are you doing, man? What's the vibes around Jason Aponte?
Good, actually. I mean, this team is helping me out. We got some good news today. Today kind of feels like the kickoff of the actual offseason in terms of things are about to start happening. And the first domino that had to fall was obviously what we're going to open the show with. So it feels good now to not have to force content, talk about things that necessarily aren't on the minds of 49ers fans. I mean, I've been writing about O-line, D-line prospects, all that stuff, trying to keep my mind on what the 49ers can do. But this feels more like, okay,
Were you
now the
writing about
offseason.
injuries yet?
Anyway, it just feels like this is the first part of the offseason, and now we are starting to get closer and closer. And before we know it, it'll be camp time where the real fun starts.
Absolutely. But let's get into the news, man. I mean, we had some really big news drop today. We've been waiting a long time because, as we know, Brock Purdy suffers the UCL tear against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we've been basically holding our breath the whole time. Is it Tommy John? Is it the internal brace? Is it Tommy John? Is it the internal brace? Well, we got our answer. Brock Purdy had surgery this morning. And by a official report from the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy looks like he's going to be good to go in about 6 months. And as we know, and we've discussed a lot, it was a UCL repair. They added the internal brace. Everything went smoothly from what's been reported, and the anticipation is Brock Purdy will be throwing in 3 months. What was your initial reaction to hearing that news?
Relief. I mean, again, a Brock Purdy reconstruction of his UCL plunges the 49ers into this sort of quarterback hell, meaning you have to sign a veteran who can play games and will be asked maybe here and there to step in and possibly, worst case scenario, play many games. Now that's out the window now. Now you can kind of safely go into next season with Trey Lance. Brock Purdy may miss 1, 2, maybe the 49ers do something a little bit more cautious and like what they see from Trey Lance and do a 4-week IR stint for him. Don't have to put him on PUP or anything like that. And then you bring in somebody like, I don't know, man. Jordan's messing around on the timeline with like Joe Flacco. That makes me want to puke. But like somebody like that is just can just be a backup to Trey Lance. So I think the relief sets in first, and then the excitement kicks in right after. Because as I tweeted, the 49ers now are in a spot where if you want to turn this back over to Brock Purdy, so be it. But Trey Lance, his job right now is to make that decision as tough as possible or as impossible as it can be to make with his play. And I think that's exciting. And someone on Twitter just was like, isn't the rule if you have 2 quarterbacks and you have none? That's not a rule. That's a cliche. And for the 49ers, I don't think that applies because you have guys that are this young and have this upside. So I don't think that applies to the 49ers anyway. So relief at first and excitement right after.
Yeah, it was funny. Both you and I were talking to Mike Silver at the NFL Combine, and he was like, listen, guys, I don't know if this fan base would be able to survive. Back in the day, they had Joe Montana and Steve Young on the same roster for 6 years. And we saw some of the best play from Joe Montana while Steve Young was backing him up. So again, we know what it is, man. These are competitors and they're alphas. And when you present a competitor with a challenge, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to grab it and they're going to be like, I'm better than this, I'm better than that guy. Even if, let's face it, even if they're buddy and Brock Purdy and Trey Lance are boys off the field, on the field, I think it's time to compete. And when you bring Trey Lance with Brock Purdy kind of having his timetable, this is a perfect opportunity for Trey Lance. Again, I've talked about it. I'm sure you've talked about it. It's like, screw everyone at this point. Like there's no more opportunities to just be the nice guy, the nice kid, young kid with all the potential. It's time to show it. Go out and take that job. And that is only going to make both quarterbacks better at the end of the day. So I'm excited. I think we can put you could tell me, and I'll get your opinion on this. Does that mean we can put the Lamar Jackson rumors to bed, or the San Francisco 49ers? Should they go out and get Lamar Jackson with this news?
What a whirlwind of a time. You know what? I do actually look. I want to say this. I did enjoy the hypothetical of Lamar Jackson because it was fascinating because people were showing you how they thought you can build a roster that can win. And I think it's there's no one way to skin a cat, right? Like there's multiple ways to get it done. I think a lot of people are of the mind that elite quarterbacks lift up teams, and I don't think that there's much evidence to assuage them from that opinion. But yeah, look, I think the 49ers are clear in what they want. I mean, they moved heaven and earth for Trey Lance. They have what they have in Brock Purdy. You still have the cheapest quarterback room for two, many people believe are two capable starters, right? Like, or starting quarterbacks, right?
Yep.
So I think the 49ers are going to stand pat in that, and they're going to do what they've always done, build their team around those guys. And while they can, and those rookie contracts are cheap, continue to spend money wisely. So it was fun to kind of see the discussion. Usually I would just dismiss it, like, why are you guys talking about something that wouldn't happen? But I do think it was nice to kind of peel back the curtain into what people believed could make a Super Bowl roster and how you get to it. And I thought that was a good discussion. But yeah, I that's completely done. Aside from the fact the 49ers have no first rounders this year. You have to have two if they sign the offer sheet. But the Ravens were ultra smart in the way that they did this. They're showing Lamar Jackson two things. One, the owners are pushing back on any sort of guaranteed contract idea, and that's because of what happened with the Browns and Deshaun Watson. And if someone does if someone does sign Lamar, they'll match that. But if someone wants to give him all guaranteed money, well, they walk away with 2 first-round picks in this draft, right? In this draft and in the next one, I believe. So I think that they're just kind of showing Lamar what's out there. And now, it's gonna boil down to just Lamar winding up, finding his way back, and them, finding a middle ground. I don't think that the guaranteed contract's out there because I think the owners themselves really don't like the Deshaun Watson precedent that was set. And I think that's really what you're pushing back against.
Yeah, and I think it's not an apples to apples situation with the Lamar and Deshaun, right? Everyone knew Deshaun was not going to be playing for the Texans. So what that meant is, everyone was bidding for Deshaun, trying to see what it was going to take to get him. And that's what ultimately basically persuaded Deshaun to sign with the Browns, was the fully guaranteed money. The Ravens have a lot of control in this situation, right? This is basically what you're saying. So they ultimately make the final decision here. They can let Lamar go out and have all the discussions and work out all these contracts and all that, but at the end of the day, it's the Ravens' decision whether they're going to match or let him walk. So they're kind of in a good spot, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of see what happens, let it play out, and go from there. And so it's going to be interesting what ultimately happens with Lamar. And listen, I'm all for hypotheticals. I mean, I am the leader of the Brian Burns agenda. So you start talking about hypothetical trade scenarios that probably have like maybe a 3% chance of even being considered. I'm your guy. So
Yeah.
I'm all. And also too, I was like, well, if we're gonna have this conversation, about Lamar Jackson, let's have a conversation. You know how it goes. But I'm all for it. It's off season, right? Like that's what it is. We get to talk about hypotheticals. No one's right, no one's wrong, and it's just based on preference, right?
Right, and that's the thing is, I want to make this clear. The reason that teams are out on Lamar isn't because anyone believes that Lamar isn't incredible, a dynamic, a force at the quarterback position. It's because of the price. And the Ravens are, I think, with this non-exclusive tag, are allowing him to test free agency. Go see what's out there. Go see what's out there. And we still reserve the right to match. So if you like that deal, then we will match it. And go see how many teams are going to be eager to give you fully guaranteed money. I think it was very shrewd of them to play this as long as they did, as far as they did. Now, there are ways for, let's stick with a hypothetical. There are ways for teams who don't have first-round picks this year, the Miami Dolphins, the San Francisco 49ers, to make this happen, which is after the draft. And once the draft is completed, you can't give away any draft picks. You can, sign him, and then you owe the 24 and 25 picks. But the reason that that's not likely is that Baltimore wants to do business now. If we're going to let Lamar Jackson walk, we want our 2 first-round picks this year so we can build our team. And we want to know early on. So that's why this won't play out as long as it will. And it's just, again, the Ravens, Eric DeCosta is a great general manager, somebody who, we got a chance to see at the combine. I've seen him 2 straight years. Somebody who's very direct. Someone doesn't seem like he's I don't want to say a liar, right? All general managers fib a little bit, right? But Eric DeCosta seems like a straight shooter. And I think that they've done the right thing for their franchise while putting themselves in a position to not lose Lamar, barring a team giving him a fully guaranteed contract, which they will not match.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the talent of Lamar Jackson, I think anyone would be crazy not to want Lamar Jackson as your quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's a phenomenal athlete, right? Like, phenomenal talent, phenomenal quarterback. He can do a lot of different things. And you think about, like, putting him in a scheme with Kyle Shanahan, with CMC, Kittle, Debo, like, that gets you going a little bit. So that's exciting because what's the thing that we talk about with this team all the time? Man, if they would have drafted Deshaun Watson, man, if they would have drafted Patrick Mahomes, what's the butterfly effect look like from that? We're talking dynasty, right? That's always what it comes back to. So I totally rationalize the thought of adding him and wanting him. But I think when you start to get into the business side of football, like all the things that are above our pay grade in regards to analyzing things, it's the cost analysis, it's the draft pick compensation that you're giving up. There's a lot that goes into it, right? It's how you're building your team 2-3 years out. There's a lot. And so I think in a vacuum, yes, adding Lamar would be fantastic. But I think in the broader scope, it becomes way more difficult.
I want to push back on a few narratives. Lamar Jackson can't pass. Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, I'd rather have them than Lamar. Stop. Let's stop. Let's just stop, okay? From the pocket, he had a higher QBR than Kirk Cousins, other pocket quarterbacks, but nobody wants to hear that. It's okay to say that you understand the business side and why the 49ers are not doing it, but I saw far too much disrespect to Lamar Jackson. I'd rather have Brock Purdy than Lamar Jackson, and that's 100% your opinion. You're entitled to that opinion. But like I say all the time, opinions are wrong every single day, and I cannot imagine you.
One of my favorite lines of yours.
Yeah, I opinions are wrong every single day, and I can't imagine you saying that with a straight face. In no world, not on Mars, not on Jupiter, not on Earth, is Brock Purdy better than Lamar Jackson. And I guess that's the best way to put it.
Absolutely. So anyways, it's always fun to talk about, but the news regarding the San Francisco 49ers is Brock Purdy will be healthy, should be healthy in about 6 months from now. We know he'll start throwing in about 3 months. That's the word. And we'll see what that means. But again, looks like the 49ers have a good situation, I would say, right now, considering that Brock Purdy is going to be laid up in OTAs, maybe a portion of training camp, which gives Trey Lance a ton of opportunity.
Breaking news.
A lot of haters wrong. What do we get?
Breaking news. The Patriots have released punter Jake Bailey.
You son of a gun, man.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It was a kicker. I could not resist.
Yeah, no, I went into straight full blown. All right, what are we posting right now, baby? Let's go.
to give you guys a little bit of a heads up, because I got to watch Brad work a little bit more at the combine. Yeah, we're friends, but we got a long time to spend with each other. This man, if something goes up, he's on his phone automatically making these graphics. So if you ever see Brad while he's on this show or on any show and he's looking down at his phone, he is most likely putting together a graphic and doing it this fast. The man is a machine. Even when he was asleep, to Priven, like while we were in Indy, when I said I wanted to lay down and go to sleep, this man's eyes were glued to watching film, to making content, to cutting up videos. I don't know if I know someone who is as dedicated as Brad Graham, man. I mean, like that man, I thought I was working. Shit, I'm lazy. I am lazy, man. I was like, watch film. I'm going to sleep, man. I haven't slept. We've been up since like 4:30 in the morning. So
like, watch film. I'm going to Yard House, man.
Watch film. I'm going to Prime 47, man.
Yeah, dude, bro. Prime 47. What a vibe that was, dude.
Oh, we haven't talked about that, huh?
We haven't talked about it. I mean, if we see a spike in Justin Jefferson's production, thank this man right here.
Oh,
he
yeah.
walked straight up to Kevin O'Connell and said, it is the time that you give Justin Jefferson 35 receptions a game. And what did he do? They just released Thielen.
Now,
I think it's working.
I'm glad, Brad, that you brought that up, because Kevin O'Connell did mention to me about finding a way to restructure or move off of Adam Thielen in that same conversation, because he had been on the downslide. But being that it was like 2:30 in the morning, I had to catch a flight. It didn't register in my mind right there. But I remember getting on the plane at 5 a.m. and looking, and like somebody was like, restructure, cut for Thielen. I was like, that's what O'Connell said. And that's crazy, right? Like, that's the type of stuff that you get when you go out in Indy. That's the type of stuff that you might be able to hear if you put it all together. So that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, man, it was an experience. I mean, we walked into Prime 47. Literally, the first face I looked at, I made eye contact with Mike Tomlin, Steelers head coach. We're like, oh, what's up, Mike? And then we walked through. There's Mike McDaniel. Like, oh, hey, Mike McDaniel, how's it going, man?
Jay Glazer, crazy. Eric Bieniemy. I mean, the
Albert
nights before
Breer,
that,
Weiland.
Yeah. Oh God, don't start, man. The first night that I had been there, don't see you doing that on purpose. The first night that we were out there, Vance Joseph is out there, like, hanging out. Jay Glazer was there. Wink Martindale, Steve Spagnuolo. Like, these are just guys that are just moving around in a space that we're in. And I think what we kind of learned, and Brad learned on that last night, was there's the combine, and then there's the combine. Yes. Meaning, like, there's the prospects, and you're there for like that in the beginning, but the real stuff is at night, in the nighttime, when all these coaches are getting loose, and the general managers and scouts and former players. Like, I got a chance to meet Von Miller, and media are there and everything. You get to meet. That's the part of the combine I didn't partake in last year, and this year is something that every single time that I go to the combine now will be a part of the process. Meaning, Brad, the next year that we go, we're never going to sleep. Like, I just want you to put it out there. Like, we're not sleeping, man. So that's it.
No, we're not sleeping at all, and I'm okay with it. I think we're going to have an entire year to get ready for the combine, just so we can operate on 2 hours of sleep every day, because we're back in the media room by 7:30 in the morning, which is what, 4:30 my time in the morning.
Yep.
It's crazy, but that's just, hey, it's a week. We can make it through it. And I agree. There's a combine after the combine, and it's a pretty wild situation. But the combine was phenomenal. We got to watch a lot of prospects, and we also found out yesterday officially that the San Francisco 49ers added 7 compensatory picks for a total of 11 picks. Jason, I was told by user 3967 in my comments on Instagram that John Lynch is a terrible general manager because he traded away all the San Francisco 49ers picks for Christian McCaffrey. I'm sorry, egg profile face, you are wrong, because I think they know what they're doing, right?
that was part of the process when they made this, right? We know D'Amico's leaving. We're going to get those picks. We have all these picks because K1 left, and we have players that have signed that were with us. All part of the process. Basically, when you really, and this is, again, I said this immediately when McCaffrey was traded for. This is going to be free, basically. Really, all you gave up was your second rounder, right? Like everything else is going to replace itself. 99, 101, 102 now are for the 49ers. And that's because of the hires of minority coaches, losing players. It was all part of the process. And again, man, it's just this regime, now is loaded up with 7 picks, might be able to trade up maybe for certain players if they want to. Maybe your team jumps into the second round. Now, because they have done that with compensatory picks before, Jordan wrote an incredible article on Niners Nation about the results of compensatory picks, what they've done with those things. It's all a part of their process. And guess what? They'll have more next year. Players will walk once Jimmy Garoppolo signs his deal, because he's going to get the going rate from the Las Vegas Raiders, by the way. Brad, I just want to, take a quick victory lap. Carter to the Saints, got one. Don't let me get Rodgers to the Jets, and don't let me get Jimmy to the Raiders.
That seems like it's happening, right?
I'm getting close. I don't have sources. This was all kind of just like right there in front of you, right? So all these things are there, and I think the 49ers are masters of this. And I want to remind people, for people who think that the 49ers hire minority coaches for this reason only, have to look at the point that the 49ers have had these coaches before this rule was implemented.
Yes.
Okay? So I want to make sure we get that out of the way. That the 49ers are not just
an exception to the rule.
Right. The 49ers are not hiring Anthony Lynn and Steve Wilkes because they're minorities thinking, hey, we can turn them into compensatory picks. They're hiring good coaches, and they have been doing that. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. So, yeah, that's why Christian McCaffrey's deal is basically free at this point. Now, it's not free when it comes to salary cap, but for all the people screaming, you gave up too much, well, now look, third-round picks, all those picks that you gave up to Carolina are right back in your pocket. And now we just got to find a way to make it work, because the third-round picks ain't really been too kind to the 49ers aside from Fred Warner. The list is not really too nice. That's the only thing. Make them fifth-round picks, and now we're talking.
Now we're cooking. But that's also the thing, right? The 49ers gave up a second, third, fourth, and a 2024 fifth for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, hindsight being what it is, like you said, kind of feels like we got it for free. Like, that's really not that much in the grand scheme of things, especially when you understand, like you said, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to net a third-round pick. Fan favorite Mike McGlinchey is going to net the San Francisco 49ers a third-round draft pick. I get it. Mike McGlinchey basically said his goodbyes on KNBR earlier this week. He's a friend of the show. I know a lot of 49er fans are happy to see Mike McGlinchey go, but his parting gift to the San Francisco 49ers by being a day one signee and probably going to break the bank for the right tackle market, that's going to net the San Francisco 49ers a third-round draft pick. So the 49ers clearly have got this comp pick formula figured out. But what makes me excited of knowing what's coming down the future, understanding that they currently have 11 picks right now. They have the 99, 101, 102. That feels like some funny money to play with. Like, let's hop up, man. I don't know. I said earlier top 60, and I was looking back at the board. I was like, maybe not even top 60. You get into that 60 to 80 range, you could still walk away with the day one starter, in my opinion.
There's a lot of disparaging Mike McGlinchey quotes. Look, in the comments. For all you people that are anybody's better, you're gonna get your chance to prove your point, right? But I'm not as confident. Not anyone's better. Not anyone. And Colton McKivitz signed, and clearly he's going to compete. But this whole anyone's better. Well, if anyone's better, why is Mike McGlinchey about to get paid by the Bears immediately once the free agency opens? Like immediately. Players that are bad don't command money on the open market right away. And I don't want to hear about, well, there's no one else out there. I don't want to hear that. If Mike McGlinchey was out there with other right tackles that you consider that are great, maybe he won't command the most money, but people are going to jump at that. That's the part that I kind of have like a little bit of problems with. Look, if you want to see someone else, say that. But don't say anyone's an upgrade. Anyone? I mean, did Tom Compton really gas you up that badly, like that one year, that you think anyone is an upgrade? Because that really ended catastrophically because he got horsewhipped in the playoffs, like in Green Bay and against the Rams. It's just funny to me, man. It's like, look, you have your feelings, your opinion's your opinion, but anyone's better? Well, we'll see. We will see. Because if it's Colton McKivitz and he struggles, you're going to start wishing, damn, you know what? I kind of forgot that Mike was pretty good at this and this and this. Now, maybe you don't want to pay him the money, the price point. That's fine. I get that. You can say that. Say that. Say, I don't want to pay him that much money for his production. You can say that. But anyone is better? No, man. Come on. Come on. No.
I mean, I don't waste my time because I also understand, like, trying to evaluate offensive line is hard. Like it's still even hard for me, and that's as someone who played the position. Like, let alone if you haven't played the position and you don't watch every snap, we can all pull one good clip of anyone and one bad clip of anyone. If that's what you put out, that's the narrative. So that's really what it comes down to. We know what the narrative is. Mike has lowlights of all lowlights, but what he doesn't get credit for is what he does the other 32 other plays and how phenomenal he is in pass protection. People, again, say, oh, he's good as a run blocker, but he just not it as pass protector. He will get beat just like every other offensive lineman in the NFL, including our GOAT, Trent Williams. It happens to everyone. Maybe not as theatrically as it does to Mike on occasion, but it's a narrative at this point, and it's I understand it. I'm not going to get mad at anyone. If you're ready for a change, that's fine. But I do want to give Mike his flowers on his way out. Being able to rebound from nearly snapping his quad tendon off just in half to then being able to rebound, deal with some issues in season, and put together a phenomenal run to end the year. Mike McGlinchey deserves some credit. He deserves some type of respect from this fan base. I get it. You don't have to want him back. You could be very excited that he's leaving, but he's still a big part of what the 49ers were able to do, and he's a good person too. I know people don't care about that too much, but he's a good guy. He was a good Niner. He's a good locker room guy, and we should at least give him some credit on his way out.
And the other thing is, it's like, again, like you said, right? Like you can point to one play and say, look, this is terrible, right? But if I pull up a play in which Christian McCaffrey scores the lone touchdown for the 49ers against the Cowboys and he blasts two Cowboy defenders to open up the lane for McCaffrey, people will say, oh, well, that's just one play. Well, yeah, it's just one play. It's hard to like evaluate guys in the entire time. It's just Mike has these plays that are blown up on social media at the inopportune times, but then people won't go back to like that drive in which the 49ers had a tough time moving the ball against the Cowboys. And when they wanted to get back to what they were doing, they bullied their way back in. And Mike McGlinchey was knocking guys on their ass, opening up that lane for Christian McCaffrey to get in there. So it's like, if you can point to one play and say, look at him getting his ass kicked, why can't you point to that play and say, damn, that was some damn good blocking from him, especially when that's the strength of his game?
And as we know, the San Francisco 49ers extended Colton McKivitz to a 2-year deal. And I think the sentiment across, social media is that's going to be your starting right tackle next year. Would you agree with that after you saw that deal come through? And obviously, it seems pretty crystal clear that Mike McGlinchey is going to be gone. Does that feel like where we're headed?
Yeah, McGlinchey's gone. I mean, I think when you heard John Lynch speak at the combine, I think it was kind of clear, out of the price range, and it sounds like first day of free agency, he's gonna get signed, like it's done. But as far as Colton McKivitz goes, when you look at the $2.9 million for the 2 years, people have been kind of pointing out, well, that's not starter money. I would have you look at Jake Brendel's contract and tell me if that's starter money because he made $1.4 million. Again, the 49ers have a way of drafting players or holding on to them and then using them to replace people a la Aaron Banks, Lincoln Tomlinson. That worked out very well. It feels like if Jake Brendel leaves, then Nick Sakel feels like the person in-house that would be there if the 49ers don't address it in a draft. By the way, wrote an article about offensive linemen the 49ers should be looking at on Niners Nation. You should check that out.
Some good ones in there too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the one guy that you love, he's gone. He's for the streets, Brad. I'm sorry, man.
We're trading up, baby. What's happening?
Oh, I mean,
we're trading
you're
up.
gonna if you want Blake Freeland, you're gonna have to trade up. But he's for the streets.
We're
as
trading
of right
up to pick 75. We're gonna grab Blake Freeland, and he's gonna be the starting right tackle for years.
Him and Byron Young, they're for the streets, Brad. That's it. It's just like
we're trading up, baby.
You gotta, but the 49ers have a way of being able to do this, and I think that Kyle Shanahan deserves a lot of credit to being able to play to offensive lineman strengths. That's the reason that so many people were like, oh, look at Tom Compton, who was won his way out of the league and became the top run blocker. Again, playing to the strengths of your guy, you're not going to leave them wide. You're not going to leave them on an island by themselves, unless the situation dictates it. Right on 3rd and 19, there's nothing you can do. Right, you've got to drop back and pass. In a do or die situation at the end of the game, so you're going to have to do those things. But it's not something that you're going to do over and over again. So, I mean, Colton McKivitz certainly feels like the in-house replacement. But I did identify 2 other guys that you could draft. And I do think it's paramount that you sign Daniel Brunskill because of if the center isn't what he needs to be, if the right tackle isn't what he needs to be, then you have your fallback guy who gives you the most considerable bang for your buck. I mean, $2.4 million for a guy who can play all 5 positions on the offensive line at a moment's notice is something kind of unheard of in the league. So I do maintain that the 49ers have a few ways of going about this. Maybe you draft a guy, let him sit, behind the right tackle, figure that out, something like that, because the 49ers have been good with Band-Aids. But Daniel Brunskill needs to be a part of this rotation in case injury and in case of poor play. And I will bang the table this entire offseason about that.
Absolutely. And again, like you said, you can turn to the draft. Old Dominion Nick Saldiveri, I mean, is this year's Daniel Brunskill. He's a guy who can play center guard and tackle, and he could probably fit in pretty well right away. But it is going to be interesting because I think Colton McKivitz is definitely serviceable. I think Colton McKivitz is a guy who proved to me last training camp that I thought he was better than Jalen Moore. I thought he was a guy who could definitely come in and step in and fill a need when they have to. I mean, a huge thing for Colton and proving confidence for me was when he came in week 18 of the 2021 season for Trent Williams in a must-win, gotta-have-it game against Leonard Floyd. I think Von Miller was still with the Rams at that time, and he held his own. I don't even know if he gave up a sack that game.
He did. You didn't hear his name called, so that's a good thing when you're an offensive
right.
lineman.
And he had to play significant snaps this season, I think week 4 at tackle. So he's done his job when he's been asked. Now the question is, can you do it for a 20-game season, a 21-game season? Can you go all the way and do it? I mean, I look at him still. He kind of profiles to me best as a guard. But in the NFL, you have to be versatile, especially if you're going to be a backup. You can't play one position. You got to be able to play 2 at minimum if you're going to be on a roster because they only carry so many offensive linemen. So Colton McKivitz has done a phenomenal job going from getting cut to being able to solidify himself as a guy, getting a 2-year contract extension. And again, it was cheaper than tendering him, right? So
because you'd have to start the second round. What?
Sources say the Bears are trading the number 1 overall pick to the Panthers in exchange for big-time compensation, including multiple first-rounders. Chicago loads up and lands at number 9
You know who
while
that's for.
Carolina can draft its quarterback of the future per
You know who that's for.
rap sheet.
You know who that's
Woo!
for. You know who
Is
that's
that
for.
Bryce?
Right? Nope. Right now, if you are somebody
AR?
who is, if you are somebody who's a better, I am going to go run and put my money on Anthony Richardson being the number 1 pick. Anthony Richardson. The buzz was if Indy went up to 1. If Indy went up to 1, it was for him. That's all we heard at the combine. And then, right, the night before, right? What did you hear, Brad? What did they tell you? Anthony Richardson is going to
that Anthony Richardson was going to break all the combine records.
All the combine records. And guess what?
And then he said, where's he going to go? He said, number 1.
1. Yep. Woo. Done and done. I mean, I honestly, from everything that we have been told, like literally, we had a guy the night before he worked out say all of those things. Literally, he is going to break all of these records. He literally did. And he said, anybody who moves up to 1, it is for Anthony Richardson. I am going to. Matter of fact, man, I'm not even gonna be talking no more. You got it. Keep going.
Hey, that's kind of smart, man. I might have to follow.
I gotta get on that right. I gotta get on that right now because his odds are about to change completely.
The odds are gonna change right away. So again, if you're just joining, we had a huge draft shakeup just dropped from Ian Rappaport. The Bears have traded out from the number 1 spot. They moved down to 9. The Panthers go up to number 1. Which is wild because when we were at the combine, we could literally see Fritterer, Panthers general manager, Reich, their quarterback coach, and McCown all sitting together right there watching the quarterbacks. So it was no surprise. We knew what they were doing. They were there to watch quarterbacks. They had the brain trust there.
Plus 475 for AR right now on DraftKings for the number 1 pick. So if you put $50 down on 475, you get $287.
Oh hell! I wish California had legalized gambling because that would be great. I would be all over that.
They've got everything else basically.
I know, right? It doesn't make sense. But anyways, big draft news. The Panthers move up to 1. They jump the Texans. Jeez, man, that's crazy.
Remember when the 49ers used to do stuff like that? Like,
I remember.
Trade up. Yeah, remember? Do you remember that day when we got the alert that the 49ers had traded up to 3? Like, we were just running around the house, like jumping on Clubhouse and all that stuff. So here it is. Here it is. Number 1 pick to Carolina for pick 9, 61, a first in 2024, 2025, and DJ Moore.
DJ Moore? Okay. What? All right, I got to see that. I got to see it. Pick 9, pick 61, a first rounder in 2024, a second rounder in 2025, and DJ Moore. Justin Fields got his wide receiver 1.
Oh my God, man. My DJ Moore stunks, though.
Hey, the Panthers are going to need a wide receiver. That's nuts.
No, man. Yeah, you know what? The Bears traded a second for Chase Claypool. Can I just remind people how stupid that was? Like at this point, the thing is now is you've got to take DJ Moore's contract. DJ Moore just signed a deal. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, like he just signed. Like that's not. You're not getting DJ Moore on the rookie deal. DJ Moore still is like 23 years old. Like somehow. Like, I feel like he's been playing football for like 7 years and he's still like,
what the hell, man?
He's like 24.
Right. Oh my gosh, dude. This is nuts. Draft season is in full effect, man. It's pretty wild because, again, we saw these guys sitting there watching these quarterbacks at the combine. I think you're right, man. I think it could be for Anthony Richardson. I mean, talk about having tools, and if he impressed them on the board, which is what I was told, is he's not only going to be able to perform on the field, but he's performing in meetings. That could be enough for offensive-minded head coach, a former quarterback. Wow, man. That is crazy. That is crazy. We got
What
we
the
got
hell,
some
man?
trade news live on the show.
What the hell,
I'm all
man?
for that.
I've got to put DJ Moore on the block, man. All right, look, I love Justin Fields, but I don't think that DJ Moore fits Justin Fields' skill set right now. And I'm scared now. Now I'm scared, Brad. Now I'm officially scared that DJ Moore is going to be that guy that we always look at like, damn, his career should have been better, but he's always going to be hampered by quarterback play at different times that didn't help him.
Kind of sounds like Brandon Ayuk a little bit.
Oh man, that was a low blow. Why'd you go there?
I'm not saying wasn't meant to be a low blow.
I mean, my goodness.
I just think
but yeah,
if Brandon Ayuk was featured, he would be absolutely a phenomenal wide receiver one.
the thing is there's always guys in the combine that jump up, right? For everybody that's like, it won't be for Anthony Richardson. Okay, cool. I mean, you guys know. The thing is, there's always guys at the combine that get more buzz, right? That continue to go up draft boards. Zach Wilson flew up draft boards, and we still don't know why. We still don't know why at this point. There's always just a name that flies up draft boards. If Trevor Lawrence, the chosen one, wasn't in that draft, you very well could have made a case that Zach Wilson would have flew up to 1. I'm not telling you this because I believe Anthony Richardson should be the number 1 pick. I am telling you that every single person that we spoke to at the combine, the person that Brad spoke to that said that he was going to smash all the records, literally did that. And every person that we spoke to says that the buzz is growing and growing and pushing him farther and farther. And anyone who makes a move to number 1 is going to number 1 for the tools that Anthony Richardson has. Get out of your feelings. I'm not telling you that he's number 1. I'm telling you what we heard. That's it.
This is crazy, man. Man, my head's spinning right now because obviously this is the Panthers. Would you say that with a brand new head coach, offensive-minded head coach, and they clearly are going to get a rookie quarterback, which kind of resets everything, they trade away DJ Moore. Does that make it? They just released. No, I think that was a false report. I don't think Shaq Thompson was released. I think it was a misreporting.
Well, not only that, I don't think Zadarius Smith has been released either.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think Zadarius Smith asked for his release, and Minnesota hasn't done it yet. The only person that's released from Minnesota is Adam Thielen at this point.
Is Adam Thielen? Got it.
Yes.
So a lot of reports flying around today. But does that mean they're going to give Brian Burns a big contract extension, baby?
I mean, just to trade him to the Niners?
Just to trade him to the Niners, man. You know me, man. Any time that I can start getting my Brian Burns agenda cooking. No, it's going to be interesting, though, because it is going to be fascinating to see how they build that roster, what their ultimate plans are, because, hey, who are they going to have throwing to them now? It's Laviska Shenault. Who are the other receivers? The LSU kid.
Oh, goodness gracious. Terrace Marshall?
Terrace Marshall. Who else other than that? Their tight ends are mid at best. Ian Thomas, right? Like, I think they drafted Tommy Tremble.
Yeah.
So they might be going into rebuild. They might be going into rebuild mode.
Carolina is just going to be hands off on all fantasy players. Oh, hey, it's just hands off. I don't want any. I don't care if you're giving them away for free. I'm good. And then who's the quarterback, right? Because they met with Derek Carr in Indy, but they seem intent on making sure they bring back Sam Darnold. So the tank is in full effect. Here's what they're doing. They're pushing all their chips in the middle and saying, this year's a wash. Caleb Williams, come on down. Congratulations. You are a Carolina Panther, my friend. Enjoy.
Well, what a time. I love when this stuff pops off because it changes the entire complexion of the draft.
Oh, yeah. Rashard
obviously,
Higgins? Hollywood Higgins?
They traded.
That's the other.
Oh, that's the other one. Obviously, they traded the 61 pick too, so they moved multiple picks in this draft. which could definitely change the complexion of what a lot of people do. So it's going to be interesting. This came through while we were reacting.
Mm-hmm. And
Excuse
look,
me.
and Brad was looking down at his phone, and this is what went up on Instagram. So this is exactly that was a masterclass right there in what I was just telling you.
We have Jonathan Jones reporting teams represented at Odell Beckham Jr. private workout in Arizona today included Panthers, Giants, Patriots, Rams, Cardinals, 49ers, Bills, Chiefs, Vikings, Browns, and the Ravens. What are your thoughts on this?
Say that one team one more time.
Which one? The 49ers?
Yeah.
Kyle
Kyle's never gonna let
Shanahan
this
still
go. Yeah, Kyle's never gonna let this go, is he?
chair?
Yeah. I mean, Kyle's just never gonna let this go, is he? Look, we're at a point right now where, you know, at the combine, teams are meeting with players that they never intend to draft, and they don't meet with players that they do intend to draft, that they wind up drafting, right? Like they never had a formal invite, right? With this is classic John Lynch due diligence talk, you know. So I don't know, man. For all the things that this team needs right now, and trust me, man, I would have been down with this. I mean, for God's sakes, I was telling people, like, you know, we need to go get Julio Jones a few years back and put him in the slot, like, and let him be on third down, you know. I just think that the 49ers right now, with the questions at quarterback, you already have the weapons that you need to insulate that quarterback, whoever it is. You probably should just invest more on the defense at this point. And I know people don't want to hear that, but at this point, you should be looking at maybe Hargrave, Fletcher Cox at defensive tackle, right? Maybe another corner, you know, something. You can't just go offense this entire time when we don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback position, right? Like, right. So, I mean, and what is Odell going to be? Odell's not playing on the vet min. He's not. No. I mean, he would have did that last year. I think he's here showing everybody because he wants a bag. If I had the best guess, I think the Buffalo Bills would be the team that's the most interested in him, being that they probably need another weapon and a running back because they feel like they're lacking something. I don't know if you guys saw Stephon Diggs on the shop. He said he's been racking his brain trying to figure out why they can't get it done. And it could be that everybody's kind of just locked in on him. And it could be just that Ken Dorsey, he draws up plays in the sand, and it's just like, Josh, just go make a play. So, I mean, it could be that. So, I don't know, man. I think the 49ers are just there to be there. Kyle Shanahan likes his guys, and he just wants to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, OBJ could definitely, you know, walk in and be the Panthers' #1 wide receiver all of a sudden with, you know, the move that was just made. Maybe that's an option. The Giants, you know, they really don't have a lot of firepower in regards to wide receiver talent. So maybe a place like that, or get Mac Jones, a potential wide receiver one. I think about 2019, I was coming up with every trade for OBJ thing hypothetical imaginable. I had Giants fans yelling at me because, oh, we're never trading OBJ. I'm like, I don't believe you. I think they're going to absolutely trade OBJ. I had fan accounts spamming me, basically saying roast this bozo, get ratioed. And
what were the names of them? Daniel Jones stand 347.
Probably
Saquon is goated 248.
Yeah, but best believe they got ratioed to death when they traded him to the Browns. But anyways, I've been a big believer of getting OBJ to the 49ers. But if you're going to keep Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, like Brandon Ayuk's having a hard enough time getting targets, let alone what's OBJ going to do? Is OBJ like, I think, again, it's the process of adding the talent. I don't think anyone would hate that. But again, it's like, what does that look like? What does the output look like? I don't know. Like, I feel like they have Jawan, and again, you alluded to it, they have some holes to fill, and I don't think wide receiver 3 is a pressing need.
No, and Lee, Zach Moss plays for Indianapolis, and Devin Singletary he's not a guy that they can really like rely on in Buffalo. And that's the thing, right? Is a lot of people want a lot of things on offense, right? I want a wide receiver 3. I want a tight end 2. Okay, well then who are you going to take off the field? Your high-priced fullback, in which he's so valuable not only in the run game, but helping you identify man and zone coverages and being a mismatch on linebackers because he's such a fluid route runner. It's you've invested money in a way that you have that puts you in a spot where everybody has a role. Juwan Jennings being on the field for however many snaps is part of his role, and that's what he's best at. Getting a wide receiver 3, the 49ers, first of all, don't run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, probably at the bottom of the league. Remember, George Kittle's still a wide receiver as well, too. So if you want to count 3 receiver sets, it's probably Ayuk, Kittle, and Debo. It just, years ago, this would have worked, right? In 2019, when you were talking about it, it would have worked. They made a deal for Emmanuel Sanders, and that actually looked like the right move at that time because he was the perfect complementary piece, a guy who could show these guys. Wasn't necessarily the game breaker in 2019 that Odell was. But again, there's too many people invested in their role. Like, you can't just bring Odell Beckham on who's going to say, yeah, I'll take a 27% snap share and maybe 3 targets to take Kyle Juszczyk off the field. Like, it's not how this works, kind of. So it's like, it's more about, this isn't Madden. We can't just have everybody we want. Trust me, I'd love to do that. But that's not Kyle's philosophy, and that's not the way he wants to run his offense, especially if Trey Lance is going to be starting week 1, which I think he will be. And you're going to see an increase in running, not only from the quarterback, just overall running. So, yeah, I mean, it's harder and harder to justify bringing in Odell Beckham, especially considering coming off this injury and what he's going to want to make. So,
and even that, the 49ers don't have traditional wide receiver ones because if you really want to boil it down, their wide receiver 1 is Christian McCaffrey. Like, he's going to be their number 1 receiving threat. Then it's George Kittle potentially at tight end. You have Deebo Samuel, who's a threat in a multitude of different ways. But OBJ is a traditional, X wide receiver. And we see how kind of Ayuk is used in that role. And again, you'd be adding another guy to the list where, like you said, 27% snap share. I don't think OBJ's, vibing with that because that means he's not getting a payday on the other side of that, right? Because he's not producing. So it's interesting. But hey, due diligence season, right? So,
and Yusef, you can trade comp picks. You can. The 49ers traded comp picks for Trey Lance.
So, oh man. Crazy stuff going down.
We're completely off 49ers stuff now. We're just talking about roster building now. We're just shooting the shit. Hey, look, 51 minutes in. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. Brad and I breaking down Bears and Panthers. I know you're here to talk about the San Francisco 49ers, but
who won the trade, Panthers or the Bears?
The Panthers lost this trade. The Bears won this trade. The Bears got a legit receiver. They still have picks. They still have a ton of cap space. Mike McGlinchey, you are a Chicago Bear, my friend. And they'll still be able to pick somebody who's an impact player at 9. And they got 61 as well, too. Have a ton of cap space. The Bears won this trade. Going away. The Panthers better get this right. They better get this right. If this is a full-out effort to tank for Caleb Williams next year, then you got it. But why would you go to 1 to tank? What are you going to do? You're going to take Will Anderson at 1?
This is quarterback. This is quarterback compensation. That's
what I'm saying.
Only person that gets it.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know if they're tanking. Like, when you really think about it, you didn't just go to the 1 pick just so you could draft a defender and then just say, this is where we're going. Nah, man, you've identified someone in this draft that you want. You've identified someone that you want to build this team around. Remember, Frank Reich is over there, first-year head coach, and it's a quarterback. So, I've got Anthony Richardson just based on everything that we've been hearing from the combine, man. Like, the people would not shut up about this young man at all, man. Everywhere. In the media room, at the combine itself, at the nightlife, every single person was talking about this kid. And then when he smashed the workout, it just sent his stock into overdrive. And that's just part of the draft process. You don't have to agree, but this is just kind of how it goes. I mean, you have a great draft process. You have all these tools. Everybody gets enamored with ceiling and tools and what he can be. And then you start to just get enamored with that. And sometimes you maybe overthink it, and it's just a lot of teams are afraid of missing out on that in one way or another. So you don't have to agree with it. I understand if you don't believe that he's going to be great or anything like that. I'm not necessarily sure I think he's going to be great. I'm just trying to tell you what was spoken about him. And every single person we talked to, Anthony Richardson, his stock is rising. The 2 quarterback coaches we spoke with, all they talked about was this kid is the real deal, and he's going to be moving up, and he's going to be this high in the draft. And this is like, it's kind of playing itself out that way.
Yep, absolutely. And when you look at the top four, the only non-quarterback needy team is the Cardinals at 3. I mean, they just paid Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's they're probably not going to, pull another situation where they had Rosen and they draft Kyler. I can imagine they draft another quarterback. So I wouldn't be surprised if we still see another trade happen. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Cardinals drop out. And hey, maybe the Colts move up to 3. It's going to be fascinating to see what ultimately happens because this is probably going to be a lot like the draft where we saw Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance go. It's probably going to be pretty similar.
Oh no.
What's your face looking like right now?
Nothing. I'll talk to you about it on the side or whatever. Okay. It's not something I would like to discuss on here. It's just a text message I got. I wouldn't want to do that on here.
I got you.
All dear.
G Code says Vikings waived Cam Dantzler. Should 49ers look at him?
The 49ers were in on him not that long ago, right? And I think that was under the impression that they thought maybe Emmanuel Moseley was going to leave, kind of I don't want to say a reclamation project because then that implies that he, was completely done. But I do think that they wanted to try to work with him and get him on a little bit better. Now, though, Diamador Lenore had a great run in the playoffs. Emmanuel Moseley sounds like he's going to come back for a team-friendly deal so he can prove it one more time before he hits the free agent market. They could, and he would get here for nothing. It's just he would be here for depth because Lenore, I think, while Emmanuel Moseley is on his way back, because remember, his injury was sustained in week 5. So if you do a year timeline, that would put him closer to week 4, week 5, where he can get ramped up. Lenore has earned every single right to be out there because he played so well down the stretch. And sure, let's see what Samuel Womack has in the slot if Jimmy Ward doesn't return, even though Jimmy Ward's kind of leaving the door wide open for, which, need it, want it. But I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. It's almost like a high upside just stash because if you can get something out of him, and reminder, Steve Wilks is a secondary guy. So if Steve Wilks gets his arms around him and can work with him, it could be something that's high upside. The 49ers having depth at the corner position is something I'll never shy away from. But they definitely were interested in him just a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. So Cam Dantzler could definitely be an option for the 49ers. Like you alluded to, they were kind of in the mix, potentially trading for him not too long ago. Mm-hmm. But we've seen a lot of cap casualties. Ronald Darby apparently has been let go. There's a couple guys. So 49ers, I think, are going to have their
Darius
options.
Slay?
Yep, the 49ers is as a trade target. They're going to have their options open here for kind of getting who they want. So I think the 49ers right now currently have an opportunity just to chill, just kind of relax, see what organically comes open. Obviously, teams are going after the big name tickets. Do you think what the Panthers gave up equals more? I guess it would equal more than what Lamar would have gotten, right?
And not to get back on the Lamar thing, but the non-exclusive tag, if they let him walk on the offer sheet, getting Lamar Jackson for 2 first-round picks is a steal. That's not. Think about what Russell Wilson fetched, right, in a trade. Think about that. Matthew Stafford got a ton, right? You're talking about a unanimous MVP, a guy where defensive coordinators, when they have to face him, are lying up awake at night, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how to stop this man. So 2 first-round picks is nothing. Now, obviously, it's not nothing because you have to pay him the money that you signed him to with the offer sheet. But that's peanuts, really. That's like a trade. Give us 2 firsts and we'll send you Lamar and you have to pay him. That's like a trade. You could get considerably more if the Ravens really wanted to do a sign and trade. You could be asking for 3 firsts, a second, and you have to pay Lamar. So this is somewhere where you would be if it came down to trading for Lamar. You probably just have to give up. So they gave up a first this year. They gave up the number 1 pick, but then they get the 9th pick. So I don't know. That kind of evens out. I'll let you guys argue in the chat whether that's a a given first-round pick or if that's just a swap, whatever it is, sounds like it's a swap. But he did get next year's first, and he got 61 and a second from 2 years from now. So, and he got a player. So that sounds about right? Like for Lamar Jackson, that sounds good.
Yeah. So, man, things are cooking up, man. What a time to be alive. Perfect for us to get our juices flowing for draft season. I mean, I'm ready for draft season, man. I think the 49ers are going to be active. I think they're going to move up, maybe not to the level of the Panthers and what they've been able to do, but I do think the 49ers are going to be more fluid in this particular draft, and it is going to be fascinating to see what moves are made, because I do think there's a potential when we look at this team maybe 2 weeks from now, there could be some pieces that we maybe never envisioned on this team, right? Like this could be obviously we know what the core is, but there could be some pieces, right, that we're like, oh, that's crazy. Well, I was suspecting that guy.
As cap casualties happen, the more and more you start to see fits that you never would have saw. Like nobody would have expected the Eagles to tell Darius Slay, go fetch a trade, like go for it. You know, I mean, I don't think that was something that was in the plans. I think they knew that Bradbury was going to leave. Now you're talking about Bradbury, Slay, and CJ Gardner-Johnson leaving. That's considerable losses in your secondary. So, I mean, as more and more as you go along, when you start to see the cap crunches, you're going to see cap casualties. You're going to see guys that the 49ers are going to look at and say, well, I had no idea that they were going to be available. They weren't on the initial free agent list. Maybe we had an inkling that they were going to be cut, but now you have to change your plan on the fly. That's what makes free agency so fun. Sunday, I believe NFL Network starting free agency frenzy. My TV is just going to be locked in on NFL Network the entire time, just watching all of that go on. So yeah, that's what makes this fun. Is that you won't know who's going to be available until people are clearing space to get other people on their team. Free agency is the most fun time in the NFL. It's not really open to trades. Like during the season, it's not like the baseball trade deadline or the NBA trade deadline where there's just massive trades going on, at the deadline. It's here and there. You never really see that. Free agency is really when you see a lot of movement. And I think a lot of that is going to happen in this next week, obviously, once free agency opens.
Absolutely. Glass half full guy says, as a fan, I hope the 49ers go all in on free agency, but I have this feeling they will be underwhelming. I could be wrong. I'm just hoping they go big in free agency. Are you getting the sense that it might kind of be like last year, get your Charvarius Ward and then sprinkle in some guys? How do you see that playing out?
I just think that there's a formula in terms of the way that the 49ers build their roster. And I mean, look, I think we can all agree the 49ers have a top roster. So can you really argue with their philosophy? So in terms of offensive line is replace the guys who are going to leave in free agency with guys that you have developed behind the scenes that you've drafted. You make one splash move that really is in your interest, Mooney Ward, and then you find veteran guys who want to do win now stuff and fit your mold. Tashaun Gibson, right? And you don't have a need right now on linebacker, right? Because it seems like Marcelino McCrary Ball is going to step right into Aziz's spot, right? They were never going to be in for Bobby Wagner or any of those guys. But if there was a year that the 49ers make a splash move, it would be this year, and I would want it to be at defensive tackle. I really do. Again, I know, guys, it's boring. Oh, well, there's all these offensive players out there. Your offense is fine. Your offense is fine. It is fine. A lot of teams look at the 49ers offense and say, we wish we had that. And it's all homegrown, aside from Trent, right? Basically at this point. It's all homegrown. And Kyle Juszczyk. It's Debo, it's Kittle, it's Ayuk. All those guys were drafted. All the other linemen drafted. Trey and Brock drafted. Now, it's time to, if you are going to have a little slip up at quarterback early in the season while you're trying to figure out who's the guy, and hopefully that's not the case, then you better hope your defense is as stout, if not better, next year, because teams are getting better on offense. You're going to need to have that defense there and be better. So I would love it to be Javon Hargrave, somebody who's a defensive tackle. Obviously, we wanted Deron Payne, but it felt like Washington was going to go ahead and make that move. Edge, you're hoping for something from Drake Jackson. You certainly are. But if Zadarius Smith comes available, my goodness, man, how do you not jump at a chance like that? Zadarius Smith would be the best edge rusher the 49ers have had opposite Nick Bosa his entire time. No disrespect, D Ford. No disrespect. Because that one year in 2019, he was great. But Zadarius Smith's a Pro Bowler. and he doesn't have injury issues. So as we see things loosen up, as we see things open up, I still think the 49ers should just invest again in defensive line. On the back end, you're fine. You've got replacements for everybody. If Jimmy Ward leaves, cool. You're going to get more Samuel Womack, who in spurts showed something. And if Mosley comes back, which I think he will, then Demo moves into the slot, and now you've got Mosley, Lenore, and Mooney. I don't think many people would argue with that 3-corner rotation in nickel. So, yeah, if there is going to be any splash, it's got to be on the defensive line. It just depends on what they want to do and how they can make it happen. It's got to be some restructures, all that stuff in there, but it's got to be defensive line, man.
Yeah, and I think Zadarius Smith had 53 quarterback hurries with Minnesota last year, like 10 sacks. He's still a force. And
Pretty good.
We can do the thing. And we could do the thing like what we do with our edge rushers. We kick them in over the guard. One of the things that he's special at is he can play up. He doesn't have to have his hand in the ground. He can do both, but he's versatile. So if he became available, that would be a clutch signing.
The real RMP says we should sign 6 quarterbacks. Hey, I've been for that. Go get Lamar, Trey, Brock, Rodgers, Brady, and let's just throw CJ Beathard in there, man, and just let them have like a battle royale and just, best man wins. I don't care at this point. I mean, I'm all for the chaos at this point, but look.
Bring me Blaine Gabbert. I'll be happy.
Gabbert? Christ, man. He's taking Kyle Trask's job real quick in a minute, in a blink. But I do think, again, like it's boring, right? Like when the 49ers draft defensive tackles, defensive ends outside of Nick Bosa, it's like, damn,
it's only boring if you don't like trench play.
Right. And if you want to splash offensive player, but look at your offense. I mean, can you look around the league aside from Cincinnati? I don't know. I don't even think Kansas City's weapons are better than the 49ers. They just have the better quarterback. Like, look at Cincinnati, right? Boyd, Higgins, Chase. They might sign Dalton Schultz. That's like,
is that being rumored? I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a spot.
I think Schultz owner, I would love that.
I think they should draft Darnell Washington, but that's just me. If I was being there,
fair.
But
fair.
But like if you look around, the 49ers probably have the best 3 weapons that anybody can name, right? We all kind of agree that Brandon Ayuk is ascending to wide receiver 1. We definitely all agree that Deebo Samuel, when healthy and upright, is the offensive weapon in the league that everybody's still trying to find. And we all agree that George Kittle's still that guy, as evidenced with his time with Brock Purdy. Not many teams can say that they have all those things, right? I mean, the Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, that's a hell of a team right there, And the streets are saying they might draft Bijan if he falls. Like, that would be gross. Like, very gross. So, like, again, like, you're looking around at teams and you just realize that other teams don't have what the 49ers have on offense. So when you ask for like a Odell Beckham, when you ask for like a player in the draft, things like that, it's like, where do they fit, man? Because everybody has their role and everybody's there for a specific reason. They didn't invest all that money in Kyle Juszczyk to not have him on the field and take him off the field. So it's a little bit of, and then, McCaffrey, that McCaffrey guy. So yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, my bad. I forgot about Christian McCaffrey.
Buried the lead there, my guy.
My bad. And so that, you know what? Having said that, that means the 49ers do have the best weapons in the league. There, done.
100%.
Yeah.
So glass half full guy also says Trey next year's first plus a third to get Lamar.
That's not enough. I don't see why the Baltimore Ravens would think that that's an even exchange.
If you had to look at Trey's value in a vacuum, just take away everything else, how much, what would be the highest Trey could fetch right now?
Oh, y'all not going to want to hear this. A third rounder.
That's exactly where my head was at, because
a third rounder.
And that's not indictment on Trey necessarily.
It's not. It's because you just don't know. Right. We don't know. You don't know. Like, Justin Fields might fetch you a second because you at least have a sample size of him running the ball, like running all over everybody. Like, he would have broken Lamar's record if he would have played like the last game, right?
Right.
I don't know how you can see yourself clear unless the team wants to do a second rounder. Like, that's fine. But then you think about sunk cost. How much the 49ers invested to get Trey Lance? To get just a second back for him just feels like, Like,
Bad
you're
business.
selling him short. Yeah, it is bad business. It's just, and it's not an indictment of Trey. I think we all agree, or some of us agree that Trey Lance, his skill set, the word that people use when they can't quantify a way to talk about potential is ceiling. His ceiling, if you put it all together, is massive, right?
Right.
But you would be sending a first or whatever, or you'd be sending Lamar Jackson to hope that Trey Lance gets there in a Todd Monken offense that is largely predicated on throwing the ball downfield and throwing the ball a lot. I mean, we're going to see a big shift in philosophy. This isn't Greg Roman's offense. It's Todd Monken. I don't see how you as Baltimore can walk away saying we got fair value for a unanimous MVP who is 26 years old and is a game changer. And if Trey works out, then you look like a genius, but it's too big of a risk to take, in my opinion.
Yeah, you kind of got to see what you have in Trey. Like, you got to give him an opportunity, hopefully, to show that the investment was worth it, and he can prove that he's worth that. Corey says, especially bad if he goes on to be a first round talent. In regards to Trey, basically saying you trade him for a third or a second, he goes on to ball out. It's just
right.
and
then that's the other thing too. That's the other thing too, Brad, is you sell him and then Trey becomes exactly what you thought he was going to be, and you've got to watch that happen. That's like, man, we had the right process, but we moved for the right now, right? Mr. Right now. I want to make sure I'm clear on this as well too. If all things were equal, salary, all those things, perfect world, give me Lamar 10 out of 10 times, not even thinking twice, as opposed to Lance. We obviously know that that's not something that can happen, right? Like, and that doesn't mean that I don't believe in Trey. I know how incredible Lamar is.
We know what Lamar is.
Lamar would be throwing to wide open receivers. Lamar would have
think of Lamar and Ayuk together.
So I'm saying, Lamar would have defenses in a blender, running zone read with Christian McCaffrey and being able to be as dynamic and slippery as he is when it comes to trying to tackle him. Again, all things considered, if we're talking about trading salary for salary and what they're paying Trey Lance, I think it's obviously a no-brainer. But the crux of it is that you've got to pay Lamar a ton, and that's going to put you in a bind where you can't pay other guys. So that's the reason that Lamar's not going to be here. Not for the fact that San Francisco doesn't want him, not for the fact that he's not good, because he's fucking great. But yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm clear with that.
Yeah, it's just a hard situation for Trey. Like, if you're really trying to look at it from really, unfortunately to say, kind of dehumanize him a little bit and treat him as an asset, like a piece that can be traded and moved and all these different types of things. If you're looking at it from that regard, you put so much into him, and he just hasn't provided a return yet. And everyone else is going to see that. They're also going to see the injuries and everything that comes along with it, and you're just not going to be able to get even close to what you paid. So, I mean, at a certain point, right, you don't want to just hold on to something because what you paid, but there's still, especially with the situation with Brock, they need Trey right now. So it worked out, I think, the best case scenario for Trey, because I think if we talk about another hypothetical situation, if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, I think we are 100% talking about Brock Purdy as quarterback one in this offseason, and Trey Lance is the backup. And I don't think there's really going to be a whole lot of questions about that. Obviously, people might not like it, but you wouldn't be able to really question it based on what Brock did opposed to what Trey has done, right?
And when you listen to the way John Lynch, so many other people in this organization speak, it's evident. It would be evident. But he got injured. So now it feels like, oh, well, I guess we'll see what Trey Lance has. I guess we'll go to the third overall pick that we move heaven and earth for, I guess, right? Like, I don't know if I've ever seen such an investment be discussed as such a, all right, sure, why not? Instead of, let's go, like, go forward with him. And I don't think anybody can really argue that, So again, like, what I tweeted today was, again, and I'm going to stand by this, because I'm getting pushback. And it's like, you're making it seem like it's an oh well situation. No, the oh well situation is Trey Lance. That's the oh well to everybody else. For me, best case scenario is, while this young man, Bryce Young, my mind is like on the draft right now, Brock Purdy,
Right.
is trending towards being healthy. The job of Trey Lance is to make the decision to turn it right back over to Brock Purdy incredibly difficult, if not damn near impossible, with his play. And I couldn't be more excited to see how this plays out, because you are going to get a chance to see him, and you are going to get a chance to see if he's developed, and you are going to get a chance to see if he is that guy. And I don't want to hear if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. That's bullshit. I'm done with that. That doesn't make any sense. If you have two quarterbacks that cost you nothing, and in a moment's notice, you have to turn to the other, and they're both starters, I think that's a win-win-win-win-win. Because when you have to turn to your backup, usually it's bad business. And last year, the 49ers turned to their backup. There's a guy who won a few games for the 49ers named Jimmy Garoppolo. And then when they turned to their third-string guy, it's a guy named Brock Purdy who won a bunch more games. Only the 49ers can have a sort of quarterback room that is insulated in this way. And again, I think it's an exciting time.
Yeah.
How did Trey have his chance already? How did Trey have his chance already? Like, that's my question. Is
because he got what, 4 starts?
He was the starter last year, and he got hurt in week 2. And that's his chance? That's it? Like, yo, I've seen enough. No. I mean, I think if you guys are misremembering that Seattle game, obviously it's going to be remembered for the way he got injured. But the 49ers had the ball 2 times with Trey Lance. They moved the ball into the red zone on the first drive, and they kicked the field goal. And they were in the red zone again. And unfortunately, Trey Lance got injured. So I don't think Trey Lance has had his chance. It's hard for me to say that he had his chance when it just ended in week 2. He didn't get taken off the field. Like, he wasn't pulled. They didn't say, we're going to Jimmy Garoppolo. He got injured. So while we're still evaluating him, to me, that's not his chance. That's just circumstances. He got injured. He wasn't replaced, if that makes sense.
Yep. And that's, again, back to the original kind of point of the conversation is we don't really know what Trey is yet. And that's part of just all of it combined. It's like 4 starts isn't enough. Sporadic starts, a start against Arizona week 5, a start against the Texans week 17, a start in a monsoon, like, and then he breaks his ankle. There's no way, even if you are the staunchest like Trey hater, like you can't objectively look and be like, oh, we've seen enough, because we haven't. We need to see more. Then we can really have a firm opinion. But I think both ways. Like, we've seen the flash plays. We've seen the big passes against Houston to Debo. Even in the preseason when he came in against the Chiefs and threw that bomb to Trent Sherfield. Like, we've seen him. We've seen that throw that's run on loop against the Bears where he fitted over as a layered throw in between coverage. Like, he has the tools and the traits. It's about putting it together and consistently putting it together and showing, kind of back to what John Lynch said, right, that everyone got upset about. Just, you got to stay on the field. The best ability is availability. And that is a saying that it goes across all locker rooms, not just one player. So with Trey, the hope is he stays healthy. He takes advantage of this opportunity in front of him and gets after it.
I'm about to get a little spicy. Okay. You would think a fan base that after 5 games with Jimmy Garoppolo was taken with and he signed the biggest contract a quarterback has ever signed. And then not just 2 years later, said, I can't believe that we're stuck with this guy. Would try to exercise a little bit more caution in automatically calling Purdy the guy. This is not to say that Brock Purdy can't be that guy. This is not to say that I don't want Brock Purdy to be that guy. But this feels a lot like the 5-game winning streak in which everyone was like, we've got our guy, lock him up, lock him in. And not a year and a half after that, 49er fans were screaming to get rid of Jimmy. I'm not saying that's the way Brock Purdy goes, but I am shocked that 49er fans have not learned to be cautious, to be wary of these moments. Funny to me how that kind of works out. And I think with the 5, right? So here's what's funny. With the 5 with the 49ers, I think he had 3 with the Patriots. That would have meant that he only had 8 starts. 8 starts. And Jason doesn't have buyer's remorse. I didn't pay him. Bobby D439. I didn't pay him shit. I don't run this team. It's revisionist history for all of you people to act like all of a sudden now you forgot how enamored you were with Jimmy Garoppolo. He looks like a Disney prince. He's winning games. He beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got our guy. Year and a half later, I can't stand this guy. He missed Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. Got to get rid of him. You would think that all you have to do is exercise a little bit of caution, exercise a little bit of evaluation process. Nobody has said that Brock Purdy isn't good. But for you to automatically want to throw him the gold jacket is nasty work. It's nasty work, man. Really is. That's all I got to say.
Hey, and I think it was well said. And I agree. Yes, I think 2 things can be true. Brock Purdy probably came in and performed at the highest level that we've seen Kyle Shanahan have a quarterback since he's taken over, and that includes Jimmy Garoppolo. But we can also be objective and understanding that he's got an uphill battle. We don't know how he's going to bounce back from the UCL surgery. We don't know how that's going to affect him mentally. We don't know. The hope is that it's going to be good. But same thing with Trey. The hope is he's going to be good as well. I think all 49er fans can take a note out of Jason's book of just be a little bit more cautious. I
Write
get
it out. Evaluate.
I get having a nice take that you can pull back up and be like, look at my receipt. I was right.
Yeah, look at me. I said that Purdy was going to be the GOAT. Like, I get it. Like, we're in a world where you want to be opinionated. You want to throw something out there so you can go back to it. I get it. And I get what I'm trying to do is very boring by evaluating and trying to go game by game. I get it. I don't care about that, though.
No one's here for level-headed takes, Jason. We want spicy Aponte.
It's sensible. It's
no one
smart.
Cares about sensible.
It's calculated. So when you put yourself out there and you're like, Brock Purdy's the GOAT, and God forbid he goes out there and he plays and he turns into a pumpkin, you're going to look back and say, damn, I should have exercised caution. Just exercise some caution. That's all. It's not all this and it's not all that. It's got to be just watching more. If after 8 games, let me ask you this. If after 8 games of Trey Lance, he was doing similar things to Brock Purdy, winning all those things, would you automatically be throwing a parade and saying this is the guy, or would you also
2.0?
Right, like that's it's insane to me that
put him in the Hall of Fame.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like
the 49ers hit a home run.
You've seen this as 49ers fans. You've seen many quarterbacks come in here and play well during stretches and make you think you've got your guy. And yet here we are. Again, another offseason. Again, I was still trying to find that guy. You would think that you are exercising a little bit more caution when it comes to crowning the next guy. This guy is this. This guy is that. You can say Brock Purdy played better than Trey Lance, obviously played more. Okay, I'll accept that. But the whole like, Brock is this and Brock is that. Can we get some more sample size, please, man? We've seen quarterbacks for other teams as well. 8-game stretches, 9-game stretches, hell, even a season. Baker Mayfield had everybody fooled after 1 year that he was that guy, right? Then what happened? Just let's slow down a little bit. Let's just slow down. That's all I'm asking.
Well, the biggest measure of greatness, in my opinion, in the NFL is consistency. So, what Brock did last year was fantastic, but he's not out the woods yet. He's still got to prove he can do it over and over and over again. So, it's going to be very, very interesting to see.
What is it? What day are we on, Jimmy? What is it? What day is it that we're on Jimmy Watch? I think that's like one of the funniest comments that's in here.
This one?
That's one of the type. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What day is it on Jimmy Watch? You know what I feel bad for? I feel bad for Rita Oak. Because she keeps asking for Jimmy to be traded, but he's a free agent. So, like, when do we stop with the pictures? He can't be traded.
I think it's coming to an end.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, when you read that, I'm a very literal person. So weird. Yeah, I'm not going to stop drawing these pictures. Yeah, I'm not going to stop drawing these pictures until he's traded. He can't be traded. So that means you might never have to stop because he can never be traded. Poor woman. I hope your hand's okay. That's all.
Good for her, man. She's totally taking advantage of what she's doing.
Oh yeah. Man. I'm not bullying her. I'm just asking a question. It's like, do we get to a point where it's like I have to stop now because he's not on this team anymore? Because if you're waiting for him to be traded, I've got some bad news for you, Rita. I love your work. I think that's one of the best things that happened this entire offseason. I think that was great. But at the same time, damn, man, poor lady. Like, how many more ideas can you come up with? She's so creative.
Everybody's so creative. But yeah, man, she's out here cooking. But the NFL is out here cooking. Again, if you're just joining us, monster trade happened. The Bears trade up to 1. They trade back to 9. The Panthers trade up to 1. So big moves happening again today. A lot of cap casualties being announced. There's going to be a lot of movement heading into this weekend, next week. So 2 people that I think you should stay locked in with: Jason Aponte, Brad Graham, because we're going to be all over it, especially with free agency, draft, everything. My guys out here cooking on Niners Nation. What other stuff you got cooking up right now?
Real quick, before we get to that, Bobby D439, I'm enjoying your comments. So Steph Sanchez Bosa impression and Rita's drawings are my offseason bright spots. If you haven't heard the story of John Lynch and Adam Peters when we met them in Indy, and how John Lynch saw Steph and acted like he saw Warren Sapp or Derek Brooks from his old team, and he made her do the Bosa impression and sent it to Nick Bosa on camera. It's electric. So you got to go back and you got to listen to Bully Ball Niners Nation. But if you check it out on my channel, I actually uploaded the video of the story. So yeah, Steph cooking because she couldn't believe it. Like, John Lynch was like, oh, and he's like, AP, like calling over Adam Peters when we went up and we introduced ourselves. And she's like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, Steph, it's the Bosa impression. And it was exactly that. And they made her do it. And then they made her do it again. He recorded a video saying, hey, Nick, I got somebody who wants to say what's up to you. And he put the camera on Steph. And that was incredible, man. You guys got to listen to the story. Indy was a vibe, man. There was so many crazy things that happened in Indy. That was just one of the stories that were there. You know, Brad's last night. Brad's just mad that he didn't go the last night. Because, all right, here, look, can I drop one more Indy story, please?
Yes.
Okay. So the first night that I get there, right, I see David Lombardi. Shout out to David Lombardi. Super nice. Always been nice to me. We had a good time talking and everything. And he says, Coach McDaniel is right there. So I walk up to Coach McDaniel and I say, what's up? And I'm like, Coach, Jason Aponte. I work for Niners Nation. He goes, I remember you from last year's combine, the Mike Jones question. And I was like, Coach, it's like, you're a man, Coach. Like, I was like, I love you so much. And like, we were just talking, whatever. Cool. We get back to the bar. Vance Joseph's there. You know, Von Miller winds up walking in. And then a guy steps out from the bar and he goes to me, are you Jason Aponte? And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah. I was like, but why me? Like, I'm like, look who's here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he goes, no, I live in San Jose. I work for Amazon. I'm working with Next Gen Stats while I'm here. The newest Next Gen Stats that are coming out are offensive line and defensive line, right? So we start talking and he starts talking to me about the 49ers. The next day I see him, it's me and Steph, and he says, "What's up?" again. And then he starts talking about O-line. And then he says, "I only want to talk O-line with Brad Graham." And I said, "You mean the Brad Graham who is back in my Airbnb, probably fast asleep?" Yeah. And I FaceTime Brad, and I'm like, "Brad, someone is here requesting your presence." That was probably one of the coolest things, is that there were people there who knew Brad, who knew Steph, who knew who knew me. And it's all because of all this YouTube stuff. Like, and it's just funny to me, man. Like, is this? And then Brad, the next night when he finally came out, you know, all those people that we said were there, you know, Jay Glazer, Wink Martindale, Eric Bieniemy, Coach Tomlin. Coach Tomlin walked through just like how you thought Coach Tomlin would walk through. "What's up, bro?" Like, yo, he's a vibe. Like, he's cooking. And then Adam Peters upstairs, John Lynch, all those guys. That's the fun part from the combine. That's the fun part. So yeah, man, that's the part that is really good. It's just, I was happy to see my boy get more recognition, because that guy definitely called out his name. It was like, "I want to talk to Brad Graham about this." And I was like, holy shit, man. I can't believe it.
And then you FaceTime me while I was actually outside waiting
for your White Castle.
Worst decision I've ever made in my entire life.
Can we take a poll real quick? For anybody who's had White Castle in the comments, what immediately precedes White Castle, and what's the process? Because I know what the process is. I'm East Coast. White Castle's a staple. White Castle's a staple. At certain times of the night, that's all that's open. Right. I know how it goes. And Ariel knows what happens. What happens when you have White Castle? What happens afterwards? Do you do afterwards? Is it a fun thing that happens, or is it a
terrible thing that happens?
Chris Abel says, "Grabbing your ankles on the toilet." Ariel says, "Boo boo." This man, it was like a day and a half where he was like, "Oh, my stomach."
Wasn't just
why?
One day. Like, it was bubble guts for more than 24 hours. Never again. Ever.
This man like completely like tripled down on the bubble guts by getting coffee in the morning. This man was bubbling.
I had no choice. I was on like 3 hours of sleep. I'm like, I need caffeine.
And look,
but my stomach is going crazy right now. What am I supposed to do?
And for me as an East Coast, I've really just got like an iron stomach, because like, again, you know, in Jersey, you know, at 3 a.m. when you leave out of somewhere and you're stumbling around, only White Castle's really open. It's open 2-4. Same thing in the Bronx. Like, all the White Castles are open all the time. So I'm good. I've dealt with it, but I know like it doesn't like put me on for days. Poor Brad. This man was like, I'm like, "You all right?" He's like, "My stomach, man. I don't." I'm like, "It's been 2 days, dog."
White. I'm sweating. I'm like, "Oh, what is happening?" Like, what the hell, man? Like, it's been a solid 24 hours, and I'm like, it's still going. Like,
it's the onions, man. That's the secret. That's what makes you boo boo. Never again,
mate. The meat is literally paper thin. I'm like, this just does not.
Look, the real RMP is the Eagles guy. He knows, because he's on the East Coast. The toilet looks like a murder scene. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Worst decision I made all week. Probably of the year so far. Never again.
All right, sorry about that. Sorry about that story.
That was our party combine story.
Right. But yeah, Niners Nation, I put up the tight end prospects. Shout out Sam Laporta. I am driving the Coons Hive. Shout out to Justin. Driving the bus with Justin for the Coons Hive. 6'7", fastest guy at the combine, can take the top off of defenses, an absolute freak. Please put that man on the field with George Kittle somehow on certain plays and utilize him. He's incredible. And defensive line went up, offensive line today, DBs on Monday. And this weekend, you might get a little, Miami Dolphins breakdown on what they've been doing since I just got their book and everything, and how it pertains to the 49ers offense. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Again, make sure you like and subscribe both channels. Put the notification bells on, because we're going to be posting a lot of stuff. We're going to be reacting to a lot of stuff that's coming on. The only thing that I could give you of maybe any value is, I'm just warning you now, the Brian Burns agenda is going to be cooking right after we get off this. So be prepared. Be ready. It's happening. I see fire. I see smoke billowing from the Panthers headquarters. And I see BB trying to get out, so I'm going to go rescue him. So just be prepared. That's the only value I have.
Get him out of there.
He's actually putting out articles that take a lot of thought and time going into them. I am just going to be posting Brian Burns memes on Twitter, so be prepared for it. So shout out to everyone.
Brad's inspired me to watch the tape, man. The offensive line one wasn't easy, but yeah, Brad's draft crush. I'm sorry, Brad. He belongs to the streets.
Who? Freeland?
Yeah, he belongs to the streets.
No, we're trading up.
It's happening. He's not yours anymore.
We're trading up. We're getting Brian Burns, Freeland. Get prepared. It's happening. I'm speaking.
Oh my God.
You can't rain on my hypothetical parade. It's absolutely happening.
Ariel, I couldn't warn Brad. I told him to come with me to Prime 47. I was like, hey, let's go mingle, let's go hang out. He would have been able to meet somebody who's a fan of his. I couldn't tell him. I didn't know until I FaceTimed him. He's like, I'm waiting for my White Castle. I was like, oh, well, too late. He already ordered it, and that's it. I tried to help, man.
Hey, next year I'm gonna be at Prime 47 every day. That's the move.
Every night.
That's what we got.
Sean Payton was drinking because he's like, damn it, I got Russell Wilson.
I made the most awkward eye contact with Sean Payton. I just looked and he looked right at me and I was like, that's Sean Payton. Like, what do I do with my hands? And that was the end.
Sean Payton, poor guy. We were at High Velocity is where we met Adam Peters and John Lynch. And Sean Payton's having dinner, right? You would think that people have etiquette in terms of like, this guy's having dinner. I'm not going to bother him. Oh, hell no, man. People were just walking up to coach and they were like, yo, can we get a picture? He was really nice about it and everything too. But yeah, Sean Payton looked like he was throwing him back because he was like, I got to deal with this Wilson guy for how many more years? We gave him all this guaranteed damn money. Like, what did I get myself into? So
I can't wait. It's wild that the combine is already come and gone, but I'm already looking forward to it next year. And we're going to be cooking, but stay tuned for the content because there's going to be a lot of it. We're going to be reacting, analyzing, and memeing, all the good stuff. So make sure you follow both of us. Get locked in. Appreciate you guys, as always, for tapping in for State of the Franchise. We'll be back next Friday.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. The content's locked in. And for anybody that's asking, Sprint Red Option at 8:30 on my YouTube channel. Me and Pasquini got a lot of things to talk about as well too. If you think that there's an agenda bigger than the Brian Burns agenda, I would offer this: the Jameis Winston agenda. Yeah. The Jameis Winston agenda is large and in charge in Andrew Pasquini's world. The Jamie Robinson agenda is thriving. Florida State, because he's a big Seminoles guy. Him and KP.
Oh, I didn't know.
They would not shut up about Jamie Robinson. I was like, all right, man, he's good. We get it. But yeah, there you go.
I've apparently been traded to White Castle. So
traded to White Castle. Hey, Brad, you can come by this one here in Jersey City. It's really good in Journal Square, man. We can be closer. I'm definitely gonna hit you up all the time so I can get some burgers and stuff. So
man, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna be like Brian Burns on Twitter, crying that they traded his boy DJ Jones, man. I'm gonna not DJ Jones, DJ whatever the hell his name is.
Whatever the hell his name is.
That's whatever his name is, man. Christ, man, I got bubble guts. I can't even think straight, man.
That's my king, man. Don't be talking about him like that. Now he's stuck in damn. Wait, is he gonna wear number 2? So 1 and 2 in Chicago? Oh wow, that's a aesthetically pleasing, back and forth. Oh, Jason, go to White Manors. White Manors. I live right by the White Manor on 440. You know what it is. It's right across from ringside, Ariel. I'm not trying to get shot. Just go get a damn burger.
All right, we're finally out of here.
All right, that's it. We got to get out of here. Sorry.
Guys. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.